Someone here for the first time? Okay. Oh, there's a whole bunch. Okay. I won't sing this. So this is, give me a second. Usually the person who leads the kirtan is not the same person who does the talk, so you have to be patient as I set up. Many of our residents have gone to the Holy Land, namely Mayapur, which is where one of our most spectacular projects is underway, building a $70 million temple in the middle of the rice fields of Bengal. So they're going to be there until the birthday of Lord Chaitanya, March 22nd. Put it on your calendar. That's a very important date. Okay. So this is the 20th day of February, 2016 in San Diego, and we're speaking on the Krishna Fest, the Sunday Krishna Fest in San Diego. And I'd like to speak a little bit tonight on the Bhagavad Gita, verse in the 5th chapter, 522. The chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Maybe we can turn that down a bit or somehow arrange it so it doesn't, there's some kind of effect. Echo, do you hear it? Hare Krishna? Now I guess it's better. And the underlying theme is going to be how our strong desires cover our reason and induce us to do things that in karma moments we would understand are against our own best interests. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading again from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, chapter 5, text 22. Some of you may know this verse. Yehi sangsparjaja boga dukkayo naya evate adyantavantak kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Which means, now this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Krishna is in the role of the guru and Arjuna is his student. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Purport. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana it is said, Ramante yogino nante satyananda chiratmani iti ramapade nasu param brahmari dhyate. The mystic yogis derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, 551, it is said, Nayam deho deha bhajan viloke kashtan kama anavate vidbujange. So this is Rishabdev speaking to his sons. Lord Rishabdev is understood to be an incarnation of Krishna. And he has 100 sons, very exalted sons. And he's speaking to them before he, what we say, takes sannyas. He renounces the kingdom and he goes to perform penance and austerity. So these are his final instructions, and they're very famous and important. It says, My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available even to the hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more one is entrapped by material miseries. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, I always regarded this as a very revolutionary statement by Krishna. It's a challenge because it really attacks the very foundation of our material existence. In ordinary life, as we grow up, we realize that there are dangers in this world. Sometimes there are pains, sometimes there are pleasures. And my mission in life, basically, is to maximize the pleasures and minimize the pains. That's a general principle. And we have all kinds of strategies for that. Somehow they seem to have turned the fan on. Can you see if we can turn that off? If you find Janardhan, he knows. Maybe on the steps here. See if, there's a big exhaust fan up here. Something's going on. I'm sorry? No, it's on. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. In general, not just in human life, but in every form of life, we're trying to ward off dangers and trying to find a little security and a little pleasure in life. But here Krishna is actually undermining, or he's stating very strongly that this is a bankrupt enterprise. Because the very effort to enjoy, when we finally enjoy something, that's the seed of our misery, of our pain. Now we can see this very clearly in cases such as drug addiction. This has been since I've been awake, since I first began knowing about my environment, say in 1953, when I was 5 or 6. There have been problems with drugs. Now, when I grew up, everybody smoked cigarettes. Cigarettes. My father smoked, my mother smoked, and when I got to be 15, I smoked. It was just what everyone did. You look at the movies. I remember Humphrey Bogart, all of our heroes. They were always puffing away on the screen. Anyone who sees those old movies, what are they doing? Don't they know that it causes cancer? Well, if you know the history, there was a huge campaign on the part of the tobacco industry to try to put some doubt in people's mind that there was some connection between smoking cigarettes, smoking tobacco in general, and cancer, or ill health in general. Even though anyone who smoked for a while could understand, yeah, I'm breathing a little harder, I can't climb the stairs as fast. It's my direct experience, right? But by that time, you're already hooked on the nicotine. And so you make it, okay, yeah, the famous statement, yeah, I've quit smoking many times. The point is it's very hard because there's a physical addiction there. So what happens there is that the need for smoking, this need for cigarettes, covers our intelligence, or at least our will. And then we make so many excuses, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or whatever, or there's no actual, the doctors say, it says right here that there's no real connection, so maybe it's okay, right? But eventually, I forget the year, was it the late 70s or early 80s? So far, they were able to, eventually it was certified, yes, cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health. And it's a law on every pack of cigarettes. I remember when they put that, cigarette smoking is hazardous to your health. Right? But what happened? A lot of people kept smoking anyway, even though it says hazardous to your health. So maybe it means somebody else, or maybe I'll quit tomorrow, whatever. So our intelligence is covered by this strong desire. This is a principle in the Bhagavad Gita at the end of the 3rd chapter. Arjuna asks a very cogent question. What is it that impels us to act and do things against what we even know to be our self-interest? And we've all had that experience, Even, you're taking prasadam, and okay, I'm full. All right, one more. Brahmacharis know this well, right? I remember, I'll be honest with you, I mean, Srila Prabhupada knew us so well, you know. If you actually join the Hare Krishnas, it's quite a strict regimen, right? We get up very early, and it means like every day. It's not like once a week. Every day you got to get up by 4, you know, and really 4 is too late if you want to, you know, do it at 3:30. And you're supposed to take a cold shower to really wake you up. This is a science. It cleans your subtle body as well as the external body. It's very good for you. You're asking a doctor. It's good to take a cold dip. There's even clubs that'll go into the ocean in the winter. Polar bear clubs, you know, they swim. It's very healthy, you know. Anyway, so every day, even in the winter, and then you know, be here. But then there's do's and don'ts, and you know, this is for those who are like want to be full-time devotees, you know, serious. And so what are the do's? Well, the whole morning program is locked in. Every day, it begins at 4:30. We have a beautiful ceremony. You're all invited, you know, of worship of the deity and worship of the spiritual master. We sing Hare Krishna, a beautiful poem, Sanskrit, to the spiritual master. And then we chant Hare Krishna, and then we sing a song to Nrsingadev, which you already heard. These are all very auspicious, very purifying. Especially early in the morning. Brahma Muhurta is a very spiritual time of day. Before all the machines are started and people working, it's quiet. And then we chant. We worship a sacred tree, a sacred bush, Tulsi, very auspicious for Krishna. Sing a beautiful song. And then for 2 hours, we chant on beads. I don't have my beads with me. But everybody has like a rosary bead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Now these are all, basically all young men, except for me. I'm the old grandfather of the whole group. But, you know, they're spending their early morning, you know, doing serious bhajan, yoga, you know. And then we have more ceremony, more singing, more spiritual, and we finally have a class just like this. And then at 8:30, we have a meeting in the morning to find out what services we're going to do. And then we have breakfast prasadam, and everyone goes and does his duties. And in the evening, we come together for Bhagavad Gita class. You're all invited, 7:15. And then another kirtan, read Krishna book, take a little notes, and take rest. And then the next day, you start over again. So it's quite strict. So that's the do's. And the don'ts. No illicit sex. That's sex outside of marriage, or even within marriage, for having any other reason besides procreation. This is a very strict standard. Oh no, okay, that's it. I'll do it, you know, fine. But that's the standard. I'm just saying this is what we commit to, you know. No meat eating, that's a fairly easy one. For people who are serious about their health, what to speak of the spiritual life. And no intoxication and no gambling. So we have these do's and don'ts, you see. Now, from the outside, this looks like, wow, this is impossible. In fact, Prabhupada tells a story about his godbrothers who went to England. His spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was active in the latter part of the 19th century and all the way up to 1935, 36. He was very eager to spread Krishna consciousness, this benediction, all over the world. This was what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted, the incarnation of Krishna, and he gave us the instruction to do it. So after succeeding in India, with great, you know, support, and he saw off like 3 or 4 sannyasis, I forget, to go to England and start spreading Krishna consciousness in England. So Prabhupada tells the story. Was it Lord Zetland? Yeah. Because the whole thing, you know, the English had been in India for centuries already. So they knew about Brahmins and the different varnashram and all of this different thing, the caste system. So they knew that Brahmins are the head of society. They're very self-controlled and knowledgeable and pure and so forth. So Lord Zetland asked Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, can you make me into a Brahmin? Because he knew this philosophy of Lord Chaitanya. And he said, sure. He said, well, how can I do that? Well, all you have to do is follow these 4 regular principles, which I just outlined. And so he said, impossible. Meaning that he was deeply involved in each one of them. You know, that's the idea. Even one of them. So So this is the nature. In other words, he said it's impossible, but it's not impossible. We're doing it. You know, thousands of devotees do it all over the world. But he felt it was impossible because he had been so habituated to that. And this is what happens. Prabhupada called it conditioning. It's a perfect word. We're so habituated that either we feel we can't take up the process, or we feel we don't need to. You have the intelligence reacts to reject the philosophy. And that's what happened for a long time with tobacco. And it's what's happening right now with global warming, with climate change. On one side, you have all these scientists, like 98% of the scientists who are not paid by the government to cast doubt into people's minds. They agree, yes, we've been pouring carbon dioxide into the atmosphere for all these years, driving more and more cars, burning coal, fossil fuels in general, and it's causing the climate to change. That carbon dioxide is being absorbed into the oceans. You know the science. It's a problem. But yet, the people who make money on it, the Exxon and those people, all the big fossil fuel companies, and those who are profiting, they pay scientists to write papers and get on TV, or they pay the politicians to vote against measures that will control right? And it's not just America, it's all over the world. You know, I read like Indonesia and all in there, they're just busy just chopping down all of these trees and burning them so they can plant, I think, what is it, palm oil trees. That's the most profitable export they can have. And all of that smoke, you know, it's covering the whole area. It's huge pollution, you know. Right here in SanDIego, the whole West Coast, in California, we get the pollution from the coal plants burning, you know, tons and tons of coal in China, going up into the stratosphere and coming down here. Now, we're not so aware of it, you know, constantly, but it's happening. So on one side you have the intelligence in the form of the scientists who are like, let's say they represent the Brahmins, the Brahminical class. They're trying to tell us something, right? The evidence is there. But then you have this huge weight, you know, commitment to the enterprise of just making more money. You know, let's just put it, you know, crudely as it is that capitalism, it knows one thing. It has one purpose: to increase capital. You know, it's based on this basic principle of greed, kama, krodha, lobha, which are the three gates leading to hell according to Krishna. But it pervades the society. And so when you have huge enterprises, political, military, economic, financial, based on that principle, which is, you know, a self-destructive principle, then they can sow confusion in the world. And what really needs to be done in this regard, which is to, you know, simplify our lives. That's the first thing. What to speak of, you know, invest in other kinds of fuels. Is not taking place fast enough to really save the world. You know? So this is a perfect example of what Krishna is speaking of here, is that the word Buddha is the last word in this sentence, in this verse, means the intelligent. The intelligent don't center their lives on sense pleasure because they know, number one, that they're temporary, and two, that there's a corresponding suffering that is there when sense gratification is your goal in life. This same Rishabdev, in his teachings here, he's saying here, Nayam Deho Deha Bhajan, those who are human beings, we're all human beings in this room, right? We should not simply dedicate our lives to pleasing these senses or the mind, which means emotional pleasure or subtle pleasure. It's the same thing if it's self-centered. Rather, one should embrace divine, not penance so much, but austerity. And direct those senses, not to sense gratification, but in linking up to the Supreme, which, according to Bhagavad Gita and all these, the authoritative scripture, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The absolute truth, the source of everything, is a person, just like us, in the sense that he has a form, he has senses, has activities, intelligence, and name. Name, qualities, form, pastimes. This is 4 things that define anyone. Right? If the police are looking for someone, what do they want to know first? Name. Right? Then they said, did you see him? Yes. Oh, good. Let's get a sketch. So you have a form. Right? And what is he? Is he tall? He or she tall, short, heavy, fat? Qualities. Right? And what did they do? Yes, I saw him rob the bank. Activities. So 4 things. They define any person, you think about it. Without those things, you can't establish a relationship with someone. If you're going to like somebody or hate somebody, you have to see, well, what are they like? You know, it's up to be personality. The same personality that we have, each of us individual, unique. Where did it come from? The source of everything. That's the definition of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So all of the personality has to be derived from a Supreme Personality. That's the idea. So that's Krishna speaking here. So this idea that a sense pleasure is the source of unhappiness, but we're pleasure-seeking beings. So this creates a dichotomy. Where are we going to find pleasure, if not in sense gratification? Gross or subtle. We have to have some source, otherwise you go nuts. You know. So that's what Prabhupada quotes his verse. Ramante yogino nante satyananda chiratmani. Satyananda means real pleasure or eternal pleasure, which is spiritual. So this assumes or presumes the understanding that we ourselves are not matter. These senses that we're trying to gratify are not really us. They're covering over our real spiritual senses. So we ourselves are pure spirit, called the Atma. And we're now covered by this body. Each of us has now grown 1 day older from yesterday. Who can deny it? Right? And we're all going, and eventually gone. This body is going to be gone. No one can deny it. But because it's all we know, we live as if we're going to live forever. But we're not. But once you firmly understand and you act on the platform of spirit, I mean eternal soul, that is just a transition to my next stage. And I lived before, even though I forgot. And what I've done before has given me this present situation. And what I do now will give me my future situation. Now what does this do? It means, number one, I have to take responsibility for everything that's going on in my life. It's all karma. But that gives us great freedom. It means that if I act in the right way, I can have the most auspicious future. I told my mother, she lived to 96, passed away about 10 years ago. And I was living here, she was in northern New York State. And I would visit periodically. So in the final stage, she was in a hospice situation in my brother's house. She wasn't in it, she was there. And I was with her, and the hospice worker came in. So I was there for about a week. And at that point, she was pretty much surrendered. You know, she had always been favorable, but she had her own program. But now this is, you know, and she had wits about her. And so I said, Mom, it's time to chant japa. I said, okay. You know, I was like, she was about a week from leaving. I wasn't there when she actually left. But so we chanted, Hare Krishna. And she chanted beautiful. She couldn't get the whole mantra in 96. But she got each phrase. So I would say, Hare Krishna. And she said, Hare Krishna. And it was perfect pronunciation. I said, this is great. You know. So we went on for a few minutes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna goes like that. You know. So I told my mother, you know, because she was an organizer with my father back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s of labor movement in New York. Very left, kind of socialist. And so she was, you know, they had a phrase, well, where do we go from here? You know, what is to be done? You know, always like, oh, what's the next revolution? Where are we going to go? So she said, well, where do we go from here? I said, Mom, you have a very bright future in front of you. You know, I told her that. Because that chanting of Hare Krishna, even for a few minutes, is so auspicious, so powerful. It is said that anyone who chants even once, with or without faith, destroys more sinful reactions than you can even commit. What to speak of her? You know, she was not committing any sin, so she was getting purified. So I have full faith that she moved on to a better situation where she could continue her devotional service. You know. And this is within this lifetime. Now, getting back to looking for this pleasure. So here's this Satyanantaratmani. So Rama, the name Rama. Rama means the source of supreme bliss and the supreme enjoyer. Krishna is Rama in that sense. He's full of Ananda. Anandamayo Vyasa. This is from a book called the Vedanta Sutra. Aphorisms of ultimate knowledge, part of the Vedic literature. So it's describing this absolute truth, and we know absolute person as full of bliss, full of unending bliss. Just the opposite of this sukha, this little chapala sukha, this coming and going pleasure that we can experience with our senses. Isn't it frustrating? You aspire for something. They just had the Super Bowl. As we had the Super Bowl, I was thinking, we're into the Super Soul. Such a production. They spend $1 billion at least on that thing, you know? And everybody in the country, you know, like, oh, who's going to win it? But so where is it now? I mean, we've had so many Super Bowls over the years. They always come in the middle of the Sunday feast. They're always on Sunday, always in the evening. So, as devotees, we have to, well, is it going to be Super Soul or Super Bowl this time? You know? But what did we miss? What did we miss? Nothing, you know. And then, you know, these poor guys, you know, they're banging each other up. They're getting brain damage. We know that now, you know, for a few minutes of fame and, you know, a few dollars. But there's so much suffering, you know. But here, we're dancing and chanting. Where's the downside? There isn't any, you know. You can chant all day. There's no downside. It's not that, oh, now I'm addicted to chanting. What am I going to do? Great. That's the addiction we want. We have to be addicted to something. So let's get addicted to Krishna. And what's the result? Satyananda Charatmani, that you can gradually get to the point where you can experience happiness all the time. Not because you're going to get sick. There's going to be these things in the material world. You can minimize them by living very simply and purely, you know. But it's the material world, you know. It's SanDIego. It's going to happen. But how do you react to it? That is the point. The difficulties will come in this life. It just comes with the territory. We're in a material body. But we can choose to train our mind in such a way that these won't devastate us emotionally, and we won't freak out when these difficulties come. This is from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says this. That the equal poise in happiness and distress, fame and infamy, loss and gain. This is a platform upon which we can build our understanding of Krishna and our relationship with Krishna. And it's been shown by the development of this movement. It's 50 years now this year. And Srila Prabhupada founded the movement, incorporated ISKCON in New York in July of 1966. So a couple of months from now, it'll be 50 years. Now, this movement has had its ups and downs, you know, but it's been growing steadily, and certainly the chanting of Hare Krishna has been growing, because there's something there. There's something there. Even, you know, people who don't even believe in the Bhagavad Gita, they like to chant Hare Krishna when they experience it in the yoga studios. What to speak? You know, how Krishna reacts to those who chant with some faith and devotion. You know, there's so much happiness there. And it really is unending. So he says in the previous verse, I wanted to also read this when they go together. Bhayasparshesu asaktatma vindatyatmana yat sukham sabbrahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. So this sukham akshayam ashnute, enjoying unbreakable happiness. This is something you can't experience on the material plane. So what he's saying here, bhayasparshesu asaktatma, when the soul, any soul, is not attached to the touching of the senses, bhaya, external. Bhaya means outside. But is vindatyatmana yatsukam, enjoying happiness within. Because all of us carry within us the expansion of Krishna within our heart as super soul. And when we come in touch with that source of pleasure, or the reservoir of pleasure within our hearts, by the process of yoga, specifically bhakti yoga, then we begin to experience this spiritual happiness, sukham. Sabbrahma yoga yuktatma. So linked up, when the soul is linked up in bhakti yoga with Brahman. Now here Brahman means the supreme Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, Krishna. Sukham akshayam ashnute. You can enjoy unbreakable happiness. Now this is, you know, we should have faith in this. It's been shown. I was telling some story about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his followers, you know. So this is a line of great realized souls who have come down and given us this knowledge. It's not something new. That's certainly not my invention. You know? So although I cannot say that I experience unbreaking, ever-increasing bliss, I have full faith that it exists. Because we've experienced some bliss, you know. Certainly in a nice kirtan, like last night we had a full temple, you know, with Nityananda's appearance day. Some of you may have been there. I think people budget, you know, 1 day a week at the Harekrishna. So if they come Saturday, they can come Sunday. Okay, we're always here. But the thing is, when you have an intense kirtan, everybody is into it, and there's Lord Nityananda, you can experience some of that, you know? And you can see it's real. And there's really no reason why you can't always experience it. It's just the mind. If you're always calling out to Lord Nityananda externally or internally, you're seeing Krishna within and without. He's there. We can read it in the Bhagavad Gita. We have faith. Then you can feel Krishna's presence, and every act, every breath, every step is an act of devotion to Krishna. It's just like, let's step back a minute. And what is it that makes us happy? You know, really happy. Now, of course, at Christmas time, it's very prominent. Somehow or other, I was thinking today as I was preparing to say something about the Christmas Carol, the movie. Everyone sees it, right? I mean, they play it every Christmas. And maybe you don't watch it anymore. But it's basically, you know, there's a Scrooge guy, you know, who represents chapter 16, right? Chapter 16 is about the demonic mentality. So, Isharoham Hambogi Siddhoham Balamanski. I am the controller, I am perfect, powerful, and happy, I am the enjoyer, you know, and then and now I've got the power, I'm going to exploit, you know, underlings, and, you know. So that's just opposite the Christmas spirit, which is a giving spirit, right? And then you have the innocent soul, Tiny Tim, you know, and Cratchit, who's a hard-working, you know. Anyway, the whole idea is that you can't be happy by being selfish and greedy and mean and like that. You know, the mnemonic mentality is you're not happy. You may, you know, gather some money and power for some time, but you're miserable inside because you got all this. You know, your heart is constricted. So what happens is he undergoes a transformation. How? It reminds me of Narada Muni showing the hunter. I'll get off into that story, but he had this mystic power. He could show the results of sinful activity. You can see these animals that this hunter was killing. They're waiting, you know, after death, they're going to punish him, you know, revenge. What goes around comes around. I mean, that's an article of faith, right? Forget about YOLO. It's not that you only live once. What goes around comes around, not just in this life. So it's the same thing. So this Scrooge, he had these dreams, and he would see, you know, his fate, you know, that he's going to be miserable, right? He saw his death, you know. So he gets transformed. You know, he gets the Krishna spirit. So what is the Krishna spirit? Giving. It's giving, taking pleasure in doing good for others, in seeing others happy. We see this most obviously in a mother's love for a child, right? When you see a mother with a child, you know, that, you know, this is wonderful relationship. There's a cute little child, or maybe he's running around, you know. And the mother just takes pleasure in the child is, number one, safe and healthy, and number two, that he's happy. And that goes throughout life. I remember, you know, I was 65, my mother was 80, or 85, or whatever she was, 90. And she still wanted to know, are you eating okay? Are you happy? Are you healthy? You know? In other words, I could be 4, 5, 20, 80, doesn't matter. So that's kind of this selfless love. But that's really what Krishna consciousness means. The love is directed toward Krishna, toward God. But through God, everybody. Because everybody is part and parcel of God. So really, a real devotee of Krishna sees, and this is one of the qualities of the sadhu, a friend to everybody. How can you be a friend to everybody? Very hard. Well, you can try to have so many friends on Facebook, you know, but not really, you know. But to really be a friend to everybody means to do good by giving them what can make them happy and their life auspicious, truly. Not just this life, but every life. So this is what we see what Srila Prabhupada did. He risked his life, came to America, just to give us the chanting of Hare Krishna, this book, Bhagavad Gita, and other books like it. In other words, the method and the knowledge underlying the methods of Bhakti Yoga, so that we can break out of the bonds of birth and death and suffering forever and begin to experience this happiness that's spoken of here. That was his mission. And it's just like a disease, but 180 degrees. It's catching. If you're able to induce someone to become a devotee and become purified, then they in turn go and make devotees. In this way, the movement is spread all over the world. It's still spreading. Very positive. So in this way, Srila Prabhu is a friend to all. And we also can be. So that giving spirit, that's what really makes you happy. Why? Because Krishna is in your heart, and he's pleased. And then he's the one who gives you this happiness. This is how it works. You won't be happy by trying to compete with other souls for rare resources so that your senses can be happy in a short time. Because we're all intertwined. I'm thinking I'm using this iPod, and I have an iPad, but some poor fellow in China made the iPad, at starvation wages, and I'm exploiting. So if I don't use it for Krishna, then I get a reaction. It works like that. We pay taxes, but if we don't dedicate our lives to serving Krishna, then that tax money is gone, but the government goes and buys a drone and drops a bomb somewhere. We're also liable. So in order to clear the karmic record, in order to begin to break out of the addiction to sense gratification of all kinds, in order to open up the path to our eternal life of happiness, and in order to do good to others, by spreading this, we should take up Krishna consciousness, learn the science by taking a book, even a small one. We have a bookstore open. Hopefully we have a table. And try to, we need to wake up from this spell that sense gratification causes. Just like, we have to wake up from the spell that smoking is okay, or that unlimited burning of fossil fuels is okay. There's a battle, and where the intelligence needs to win over the lower self. And that intelligence is purified by chanting and by hearing the knowledge coming from these books. So I'll read this verse again, and then we can have a discussion if you like. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, namely sense gratification, does not delight in sense gratification, which has a beginning and an end, and which inevitably brings misery, the wise person. Rather, one comes in touch with the Supreme Absolute through the process of Bhakti Yoga and comes to the point of enjoying unending spiritual happiness, which has no downside. Anyone have any questions, comments on these few points? Okay, while you're thinking of one, I'll give you a poem, because we have a few minutes. And I don't think I'm ready to do another long kirtan right now, at least right away. We'll wait a few minutes. So, one of the verses that is very much in tune with this was originally written by this great devotee named Madhavendra Puri. Many of you have heard of Madhavendra Puri. He was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master, Ishwara Puri. And he wrote this verse, which is quoted by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to a great devotee named Sanatana Goswami in the early part of the 16th century in Benares. So he says, Kamadinam katina katita palita durni deshas tesham jata mayana karuna natrapa no pashantihi Utsvijaitam hatayodupate sampratam labdha buddhis pamayata akshadanamabhayam mam diyung svatmadasya. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. It's a very rich verse. So first of all, it's like a point of waking up. It's just like the addict finally realizes, I'm not going to be happy by serving this demand. I'm going to be happy by kicking it right? However difficult it may be. So he says, lifetime after lifetime, I've been serving these demands of the senses and the mind. This is called kamadinam. So kamadi means not only lust, but anger, greed, illusion, all these things. They're pushing us to act in certain ways. So these are just like slave drivers. I'm the soul, right? I've got this conditioned body and conditioned mind, and they're full of all these desires, and I serve them, serve them, serve them. But all I get is another body, another birth, death, old age, disease, you know, suffering, different miseries in this world. This is the result of it. So now, he says, now my intelligence has awoken. How? By contact with the transcendental sound, either coming from the Shastra or coming from a realized soul like that. But that's not the end of it. Now I know that I shouldn't be obeying these demands. But without any other demands that I'm going to serve, I must obey. You can't stand on a platform of not doing anything. You have to act. So he says, now I'm rejecting them. But then at the next moment, I'm approaching you, Krishna. Please engage me in your service. You are the shelter of fearlessness. The fearless shelter. Now why does he use that word fearlessness? Because it's a very frightful situation. To be in a situation where you're bound hand and foot and you have to, you know, imagine, you know, we've all seen those movies as kids, you know. What is it, the Roman slave ship, you know? And, you know, they're in the hold there and they're chained up, you know, pulling the, you're helpless, you know, slavery. You know, it's a depressing situation. So we're like that. We're slaves to our desires, you know, that are not good for us. We may fulfill them, but then, as explained in the verse, then misery comes. So how to break free? We have to serve, but not out of fear, not out of compulsion, but out of love. And Krishna is so lovable. He's asking us, okay, look, think of me. Just think of me. What's so difficult? It's so attractive. Who can be more beautiful than Krishna? You know? So, the gopis experience. Saundaryamata sindhu bangaladana chitta disampravaka. This is a verse sung by Radharani, the main servant of Krishna. Saundaryamata sindhu bangaladana chitta disampravaka. They say that Saundaryamata sindhu, Krishna's beauty is like an ocean of nectar. And the waves in that ocean are overwhelming the high hills of the consciousness of the gopis. In other words, they can't resist him. We should be like that. and then she goes through every sense, you know, and fragrance is inundating the world. You know, all of these things, the five senses. So Krishna is so attractive. You can see there's Giridhari. And what about those qualities? You know, qualities are all attractive. The beauty, you know, the pastimes, fragrance, the compassion. Why does Krishna come here? How did this Bhagavad Gita come about? Why would Krishna, who's enjoying Goloka Vrindavan with the gopis and the gopas and the cows and his mother, why would he need to come here? You remember, if you read the pastimes, there's so many demons who attacked him. The Kamsa and Jarasandha and Kalyavana and Tirthavarta, there's a huge list. Does anyone of us want to go in a place where someone's going to keep attacking you? And then especially if we have another place we can go to, right? Or not even come. So he comes for us because we're his children. And we've wandered away. Prabhupada gives the example, you know, and it happens all the time in America. Where some, you know, kid will get restless at home, you know, the parents, so much restriction, they're telling me what to do, what I can't do. I'm going to go to San Francisco and enjoy. I've heard it's really good over there. You know, summer of love. You know, it's 40 years over, but you still have this fantasy. So they go on the street, you know, and they get into trouble, you know. But so the parents, you know, they've forgotten about their parents, you know, already. They're already in their life. But the parents are always wondering, when are they going to come back? When are they going to call? Maybe they'll text me. So Krishna's like that. He's thinking of us all the time. He never forgets. But we forget him. So therefore he comes to speak Bhagavad Gita. You know, it's inserted in the Mahabharata and all these incredible stories. You're reading all these stories and all of a sudden you get this infusion of this great philosophy. It's kind of a trick, Vyasadev's trick. So, and he keeps doing it. He not only comes himself, he sends his emissaries like that. So this Surit, he's the Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the best friend of all living beings, including us. So by reciprocating just a little bit, we can feel the connection. We can feel our lives taking on meaning, you know. Otherwise, it's basically animal life. It's not fulfilling. So it's like that. So he's saying, so we have to accept some master. Either it's going to be our senses and mind, or it's going to be Krishna. If we serve Krishna, our life becomes auspicious, and we become full of bliss, and we eventually get to the point of not even a pinch of suffering. If we serve our senses and our mind and our lower self and others in the same mood, then our lives are going to remain as they are, which is, you know, nasty, brutish, and short. This was a Habza. Maybe not so nasty, you know, but the idea is that it's a failure, and we're throwing the dice. Who knows what's going to happen in the next life? In this lifetime, everyone in this room has come in contact with Krishna. So in that sense, we're very, very fortunate. How many millions of people are in this city? Some of them, amazingly, have never even heard of Krishna consciousness. Who are you guys, anyway? We get it all the time when we go down at downtown. After 50 years, who are you? That's really our fault for not probably, you know. But here, you know, we've come in touch. So we should pursue it with will. You have to have determination. Any questions? Comments? Yes? So,
how do you bolster up your determination?
How do you bolster up your determination? Well, there's a lot of questions like this, and mostly the answer is you need to associate with the determined. Sometimes the question is how do you strengthen your faith? Prabhupada directly said by associating with the faithful. This was a great gift that Prabhupada gave us. He gave us so many gifts, but his first gift was his own association. You have to remember, when Prabhupada first came, there were only 3 books, the ones he brought with him, the first canto. And devotees were reading those. They're great. They're, you know, full of knowledge. But mostly it was just him. It was just Srila Prabhupada personally. Right, you know, at the very beginning, the summer of '66. Okay? I love those lectures are available, by the way. They're great treasures. You can hear Prabhupada, you know, just coming alive because now suddenly he has an audience, you know, after all this time, and he's just pouring out the nectar, you know, and with great, great energy. So he was able to infuse the faith, and along with it, the determination to practice. But the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is that if you're just determined to take a few steps sincerely, you know, like I remember when I started, okay, I'll do it, because I was working and everything. So I'll get up a little earlier, 2 rounds, and I'll read for 15 minutes. That was it, 2 rounds a day. And I stuck to it. You have to be determined to at least do that. Just like if you want to lose weight, right? You got to be determined. So, okay, Hare Krishna. So by being determined to take that first step, Krishna gives you inspiration and will and strength to take the next step, which may be 3 rounds, who knows, you know, and following 3 regular principles rather than just 2. So the point is that you have to see a path. And the most important thing is association. Sangha is everything, really. You know, to be able to, and we have so much opportunity directly, you know, with devotees, which is most important, can't be neglected. But also through so many media, most important, which is books. But now we have the internet. You can attend Mangal Artik in Mayapur. Just find out the time, you know, it may be 6 o'clock at night of your time, whatever it is. But the point is you can actually see the deities and get some, you know, nectar there. But the most important thing is good association. And so to be willing to associate someone who is at a point where you want to be. You know what I mean? So that you can get there. Just like learning an instrument. I like to give that example because I learned several instruments, how to play music, you know. Well, you go to you hang out with the people who are really good drummers or people who can play the flute or whatever, you know. Or you get a teacher. And they first of all encourage you, yes, you can do it, you know. And then they teach you how to go A, B, C, you know, and to do this and don't do that. So also, when you're dealing with, you know, this discipline, there is the great facility of prayer. Prayer, you know. And you find our songs from Narottam Das Thakur or Bhaktivinoda, there's so many prayers, really. And many times they'll take the role. They'll, oh, I'm so unfortunate. Gopinath, remember that song? There's a song by, three-part song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And so much of the song, he's saying, oh, you know, I have no desire to perform devotional service. I'm just a rascal. I spend my life uselessly. But that's not the end of it. You know, otherwise anyway. So then, please give me the strength to serve you, right? Please give me the will to take the next step in devotional service. And Krishna, he wants that, so he'll bless you if you're sincere. So association and prayer, and you're sure to succeed. Trust me. Yes, Hridayrat.
Yeah. Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the spiritual master.
Yes, he took a spiritual master.
He's also considered the Jagat Guru, same as Krishna, Jagat Guru.
Yes.
And Lord Krishna also had a spiritual master. Do they need a spiritual master?
No, they do that as an example for us. Krishna says right in the Gita, when you read chapter 3, he says, I don't have anything to perform, and I don't have any duties to perform in this world, but I do them anyway, because Yadyaracharati Shreshtas is a verse. Whatever the great person does, everyone follows. So the whole world will be put into ruination if I also gave up my duties. So Krishna and Lord Chaitanya both took spiritual masters, took a very humble role. Lord Chaitanya was doing the laundry of Ishvara Puri in Vrindavan, in Navadvip when he came. He was showing by example menial service to really humble ourselves, you know. And that opens up the floodgates of knowledge. And the spiritual master really wants to pour out, you know. So he's teaching, you know. So they're doing it as an example. And Srila Prabhupada did the same thing. One time he got down on his hands and knees to show us how to clean the temple. Srila Prabhupada was doing it in LA. It's famous, you know. So this is what Acharya means. So Lord Chaitanya took the role of an Acharya, and Krishna also did that to a lesser degree. But you know, the Acharya means someone who knows the Shastra perfectly, this scripture, acts according to it, and takes the trouble to teach. Those three things. So Lord Krishna, and to a greater degree even Lord Chaitanya, they took that role of Acharya as well, you know, in their lives.